China's factories once ran on sheer scale and cheap labor. Today, thanks to the robot dividend, more than 290,000 industrial robots power assembly lines. And the country now controls 60% of the world's electric vehicle battery market, while filing 38% of global AI patents. This is not just modernization, it is a radical high-tech rewrite that re-engineered the entire economy and daily life itself. But beneath the numbers, the real change and its consequences run much deeper than the headlines suggest. How did China pull off the upgrade that rewired industries, cities, and the lives of 1.4 billion people? Inside a Shenzhen electronics plant, the hum of machines has replaced the chatter of assembly lines. Where hundreds of workers once stood, rows of articulated arms from Siasun and Estun now weld, sort, and assemble parts with tireless precision. This is the robot dividend, a surge in productivity unleashed by automation. In 2022 alone, China installed over 290,000 industrial robots, more than half the world's total. Robot density soared to 392 units per 10,000 factory workers, up from just 49 in 2015. Factory managers describe the change as nothing short of a recoding. Output per line has jumped by 20 to 50%, while defect rates have dropped by nearly one-third. The shift did not happen by accident. Rising wages, pandemic disruptions, and government incentives under Made in China 2025 pushed manufacturers to trade cheap labor for programmable precision. Municipal grants and subsidies made robots, especially from domestic makers like Siasun and Estun, 30% cheaper than foreign models. In one textile plant near Zhejiang, automation meant a floor that once needed 100 workers now runs with just 5 technicians overseeing the robot cells. The rest have moved into roles programming, maintaining, or tuning the new machines. For managers, the payoff is clear. Robots cut costs and keep production at home, even as competitors in Southeast Asia offer lower wages. For workers, the story is more complex. Routine jobs vanish, but new opportunities open up for those willing to retrain as coders or robot technicians. The relentless drive for precision is not just about efficiency. It is the foundation for the next leap in high-tech manufacturing, where batteries, chips, and smart devices demand perfect consistency, shift after shift. On the battery assembly floor in Changsha, a technician in a blue smock monitors rows of lithium cells as they glide down the line. Instead of a patchwork of suppliers, nearly every part of this process, anodes, cathodes, separators, even the final pack assembly, happens under one roof. This is the signature of China's battery empire. Over 60% of the world's electric vehicle battery capacity now comes from Chinese factories, with giants like BYD and CATL at the helm. BYD's vertical model stands apart. Years ago, the company bet on controlling its entire supply chain, from raw material processing to finished vehicles. The Blade battery, launched in 2020, uses lithium iron phosphate chemistry, which is safer, cheaper, and free from nickel and cobalt. This design lets BYD pack more cells into each module, cutting costs by nearly one-third and making recalls for battery fires almost unheard of. Every step, from mining contracts to final vehicle assembly, is managed in-house. The result is striking. BYD delivered 4.27 million vehicles in 2024, holding more than one-third of the Chinese market and exporting to Europe at prices global rivals can't match. CATL, meanwhile, supplies one-third of the world's electric vehicle batteries, pushing innovations like rapid charging cells and new chemistries. Their scale is hard to overstate. China's battery factories built enough capacity in 2024 to supply 9 million electric vehicles, driving global battery prices down 30% in a single year. For workers, the job has shifted from repetitive assembly to monitoring automated lines, troubleshooting sensors, and running quality checks. As exports surge, up 70% to Europe and the US, pressure mounts on overseas automakers. The battery line workers' daily routine now powers an entire supply chain built for speed, scale, and relentless cost pressure. What began as a search for efficiency has redrawn the map of global auto manufacturing. A new frontier opened in 2017 when China's State Council declared artificial intelligence a national priority. The new generation AI plan set an ambitious target, global leadership by 2030, but as U.S. export controls tightened, cutting off access to top-tier GPUs and advanced semiconductors, Chinese researchers and engineers faced a hard boundary. The answer was to build an AI stack from the ground up, with homegrown chips and a sprawling network of domestic data centers. Cambricon's MLU processors, designed for machine learning, became the backbone for training and inference inside China's borders. Huawei's Ascend series, paired with the Mindspore software framework, offered a full-stack solution, hardware, algorithms, and cloud integration, untouched by foreign sanctions. These chips are optimized for the matrix math that powers neural networks, accelerating both factory vision systems and city-scale analytics. By 2024, domestic suppliers fueled over 1,000 large-scale data centers, placing China among the world's top 3 for cloud infrastructure. This push isn't just about resilience. China now holds 38% of global AI-related patents, more than any other country. The sovereign compute model ensures that sensitive data, from industrial secrets to city surveillance, never leaves home soil. Institutional innovators, from Cambricon's chip designers to Huawei's cloud architects, operate under a simple mandate: no foreign choke points, no external dependencies. The result is a silicon firewall, not just a digital one. These domestic systems provide the horsepower for city-level AI, powering everything from traffic optimization to predictive policing. The same chips that train factory robots now run the analytics behind smart governance. In China's tech upgrade, the ability to compute at scale, on sovereign terms, has become as strategic as any factory floor or battery line. A shopkeeper in Chengdu starts her morning by unlocking the door, but her real business hub is her phone. With a few taps on WeChat, she checks overnight orders, replies to customers, and restocks shelves using supplier mini programs, all without ever leaving the app. For her, WeChat and Alipay are more than messaging or wallets. They are the entire storefront, supply chain, and cash register rolled into one. Both platforms count over 1.3 billion users, each hosting a universe of mini programs that bundle shopping, food delivery, ride-hailing, utility payments, and even booking a doctor's appointment. Instead of juggling dozens of apps, users scan a QR code and pay in seconds, or browse flash sales pushed by local merchants straight into their chat feeds. For shopkeepers, these super apps mean instant access to logistics, marketing tools, and customer analytics, often doubling sales during online promotions. The friction of cash, cards, or clunky terminals is gone. By 2023, more than 86% of urban transactions were digital, and for many, cash feels as outdated as fax machines. The scale is staggering. On any given day, hundreds of millions of payments flow through these platforms, quietly powering the routines of city life. In city after city, the leap from cash to digital payment is nearly complete. By 2023, over 86% of all urban transactions in China flowed through digital wallets. For a shopkeeper in Chengdu, a plastic QR code on the counter is now the default cash register. Customers scan, pay, and go. No coins, no bills, no waiting for change. But beneath the surface, not all digital money is the same. Most payments run through private platforms like WeChat Pay and Alipay, which process trillions in transactions each year. These apps are fast and convenient, but they are built on private rails and charge small fees to merchants. Alongside these giants, a new option has quietly entered the mix: the digital yuan, or ECNY. Launched as a pilot by the People's Bank of China in 2020, the ECNY is government-issued money, designed to work both online and offline, even with a dead phone signal. By 2024, pilots reached 26 cities and over 260 million registered wallets. Unlike private wallets, ECNY transactions carry zero merchant fees and offer features like programmable payments, letting authorities issue subsidies or set expiration dates for funds. For the state, this system means direct oversight of spending patterns and real-time data collection, capabilities that private platforms only partially provide. The digital yuan does not replace WeChat or Alipay, but it adds a new layer: programmable, traceable, and state-backed money, tested at scale to see how far centrally managed digital cash can go in a society where paper money is already fading from view. A homeowner in Shenzhen wakes up to a house that is already in motion. The blinds rise as the sun hits a preset angle, the air conditioning quietly adjusts, and a robot vacuum from Ecovacs starts its morning sweep. Over 500 million smart devices like these are now active across China in 2024, each one connected through hubs from brands like Xiaomi. Lights, security cameras, and kitchen appliances all linked to a single app, ready for voice commands or remote tweaks. The daily routine is seamless. A tap on the phone starts the washing machine, a voice prompt pays utility bills, and a glance at the smart fridge shows what is running low. Service robots, once novelties, now deliver parcels or guide visitors in urban apartment buildings. Every action, temperature changes, appliance cycles, even the path of a cleaning robot feeds data to cloud servers, building a profile of habits and preferences. This constant stream of information does not just make life easier for the homeowner. It forms a digital thread that can be tapped for city-level AI, powering everything from energy management to predictive maintenance. In China's smart homes, convenience and data are inseparable, and the information generated behind closed doors is quietly shaping the next phase of urban intelligence. Morning traffic in Hangzhou once meant gridlock, with intersections clogged and commuters inching forward at a crawl. In 2016, city officials turned to a new kind of solution, the City Brain project developed with Alibaba. Thousands of sensors and cameras fed real-time data into a central AI system, which calculated the flow of cars, buses, and even ambulances. Instead of relying on fixed traffic lights, City Brain adjusted signals on the fly, opening up green corridors where roads were jammed and holding red lights longer where side streets were empty. A composite of daily life emerges in the experience of a Hangzhou resident and a traffic official. The resident remembers shaving minutes off her morning commute, noticing that backups at the busiest intersections seem to dissolve faster than before. The official points to municipal reports after City Brain went live. Average traffic speeds on major roads increased by 15%. Emergency vehicles cut through congestion more quickly, with ambulance response times dropping by up to 50% in some districts. The system's reach extends beyond cars. Buses send their GPS locations to the City Brain, which can hold lights green to keep them on schedule. Video feeds track traffic density, and when an accident blocks a lane, the AI reroutes vehicles in real time. By 2024, Hangzhou's model had been adopted in over 20 cities nationwide, each adapting the algorithm to local streets. Official narratives highlight efficiency, faster commutes, less idling, and smoother logistics for delivery drivers. Yet the scale of data collection, thousands of sensors, and live video streams opens new debates about how much information should be gathered in the name of public good. For now, the City Brain stands as a flagship of urban AI, with its 15% speed claim printed in both government press releases and Alibaba's white papers. For many in Hangzhou, the difference is felt every time the light turns green just a bit sooner than expected. Travelers in China sometimes find their plans upended not by a missed connection, but by a line of code. In one regional pilot, a seafood trader tried to book a high-speed rail ticket, only to discover his name on a local blacklist. The reason was an unpaid court fine tied to a business dispute. Overnight, he lost access to fast trains, flights, and even certain hotels. His phone displayed a message saying restricted from high-speed travel due to loss of trust, with no clear path to appeal. This is the reality of China's social credit pilots, a patchwork of more than 60 local experiments testing how compliance scores can shape daily life. Contrary to popular images of a single all-seeing score, most pilots operate as fragmented systems. In places like Rongqing and Suzhou, authorities maintain lists of defaulters and rule breakers, targeting specific infractions, tax evasion, unpaid debts, environmental violations. The penalties are concrete. By 2023, over 20 million people face travel bans or limits on luxury purchases for failing to resolve judgments. Businesses, too, can be blacklisted, shut out of government contracts, or barred from issuing bonds after environmental violations. Official documents show that 73% of enforcement actions target companies, not individuals. The rules for landing on a blacklist are often opaque, and getting off can take months or years. Legal scholars and non-governmental organizations point to serious due process gaps. Appeals can stretch for 18 months, and some pilots lack clear standards for evidence. Critics warn that the system's reach can outpace its safeguards, especially as blacklists are shared across provinces and between agencies. For those caught in the web, the consequences are immediate and public, but the process behind the penalty remains largely hidden. These regional pilots, each with their own logic and limits, reveal a system less about a single score and more about a growing network of compliance databases, each shaping who can move, spend, or do business in ways that are tangible and hard to predict. About 600 million surveillance cameras now watch over China's streets, offices, and apartment blocks, twice as many as in the United States. Those cameras are the backbone of a nationwide surveillance ecosystem. The largest suppliers, Hikvision and Dahua, dominate government procurement, shipping millions of units every year for public safety contracts. Their cameras are often paired with AI software from SenseTime and MEGV, systems that can register faces, read license plates, and even analyze the gait of pedestrians. In some cities, camera networks link into neighborhood grids, feeding live video and metadata into police and city management dashboards. Vendors do not just sell hardware, they compete to offer analytics platforms that promise to spot suspicious behavior, flagging loitering, unusual gatherings, or blacklisted individuals. Predictive policing software, now deployed across dozens of districts, claims to identify risks before crimes occur by analyzing patterns in location, movement, and social connections. Police in Xinjiang and other regions have used these systems to generate lists of potential suspects for questioning or monitoring, sometimes relying on algorithmic profiles alone. That emphasis on prediction has transformed how law enforcement prioritizes attention and resources, and it has made predictive tools central to modern policing in many places. Official reports often tout falling crime rates, with some cities citing drops of 10 to 20% after new camera grids and analytics went online. Those figures are persuasive, but they are hard to verify independently. Human rights groups and technology watchdogs have raised alarms about error rates in facial recognition. Studies from NGOs and academic labs estimate false positive rates between 1% and 5%, a level that can cause mistaken detentions or public shaming. Procurement records show local governments investing billions in system upgrades, yet few publish audits of system accuracy or investigations into wrongful enforcement. For ordinary citizens, the scale of monitoring is inescapable. Every subway ride, traffic crossing, or visit to a public square can be logged and analyzed, often without notice or consent. Supporters argue that this all-seeing infrastructure deters crime and finds missing persons with unmatched speed, and they point to real successes in emergency response and traffic management. Critics warn that the same systems can be used to suppress dissent or to penalize minor infractions when algorithmic decisions go unchecked. In China's upgraded society, the line between safety and privacy grows thinner every day, and the public is left to weigh faster responses and lower crime rates against invisible costs to autonomy and civil liberties. Right now, China's fusion of innovation and control shapes not just its economy, but global tech standards and ethical debates. As over 400 robots per 10,000 workers become the new normal, the world must grapple with what happens when efficiency, convenience, and surveillance converge. The blueprint is being drawn, and its impact will not stop at any border. What future do we choose from here? Share your perspective below.